welcome to the Have Knitting Podcast. My name is Christy. If you don't know what a Nomi is, check out the last podcast and that will explain it. How are you? My goodness, I've missed you. It has been quite a while since I last recorded. We've just had 2 weeks of school holidays. So even though I had the best of intentions to record during the holidays, it just wasn't possible. I had all 6 kids home and we were just busy pretty much every day. And my routine, not that I have much of a routine, but my routine went out the window. And the days that I was home, I was trying to rest, or I had someone in my face wanting something. So it just didn't happen. Or my husband was home and we had a long weekend and he took an extra day off work. So we had a 4-day weekend during the middle of the holidays, and I was kind of hoping to do it then, but he was really busy trying to get stuff done. So he was recording some music with a neighbour. My husband plays guitar and writes songs, and so he's really keen to get those onto CD. So he was up doing that with a neighbour, so that took up a fair whack of time. Which is great. I'm really happy that he was able to do that. And we went to see Storks, and we were just trying to have some family time as well. Plus I was really tired. So I kind of napped a little bit while he was home, and he was doing a lot of yard work. We've a guy up the street. We live in a very long street. And so a guy about halfway up the street had some trees come down a few months ago, and my husband approached him and said, do you need those trees for anything? And the guy said, no, if you want the trunks you can have them. So my husband and a couple of the other guys that he's friends with in our street kind of banded together and went up there with chainsaws and started taking the trunks apart and bringing them, like taking them to varying houses. So we got a lot. Our friend up the street that my husband recorded with, he got some. I think the guy across the road, he got some as well. So my husband's been really busy chainsawing wood and chopping it up into chunks for next winter. So my husband's beaver. So not quite. So that's been really good, but that's been really time consuming. So it's really hard to record when I've got all the kids home and I don't have someone to run interference. So because I tend to get interrupted, or I can hear people doing things that they shouldn't be doing, or whatever. And in saying that, I do love my children. They can be full on, as all children can be. So that's been the last 2 weeks. Before that, we had a couple of head injuries. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm Knit with Jam. You would have seen them. So we've had a bit of drama. We've had a bit of fun. We went and saw Storks. I don't know if I mentioned that. We went and saw Storks during the school holidays. If you haven't seen that and you have young kids, take them to it, because it was hysterical. It was just drop down funny. If you haven't seen any of the shorts, then I highly recommend looking it up on YouTube, especially the one with the wolf pack. That's hysterical. I think I just about cried laughing the first time I watched it on YouTube. And it was just, and I was still laughing at it in the movie. It was hysterical. And then I cried and cried at the end, like the big soppy woman that I am. And I'm not ashamed of the fact that I walked out of the theatre still sniffing and drying my eyes on a tissue. Because the ending was really lovely. Really lovely. But in saying that, I also cried at the end of Frozen. I went away with some girlfriends a few years ago for the weekend, and I bought the kids Frozen as a treat to watch while I was gone, because I hadn't seen it at the movies and I was hearing all this buzz about it, and I thought my girls would enjoy it. And so they watched it while I was gone, and then I got home and I think the kids wanted to talk to me about it. And I'm like, hang on, I haven't seen it yet. Let me watch it. And so I watched it after they'd gone to bed that night. And I sat on the couch crying at the end. Grown woman watching Frozen by herself, crying. I'm not ashamed. I have no reason to be. So that's pretty much been my 2 weeks in 3 weeks. Or is it 4? 4 weeks in a nutshell. It sounds far less busy than it actually was. But I will say I got a huge amount of knitting done, which is fantastic. Well, a huge amount of knitting done for me. So I'm going to start today with what I'm wearing, because if you're new to the podcast, you wouldn't have seen this before. And if you are new, welcome. Thank you for joining, and thank you to all the new subscribers. It's so exciting. And if you haven't joined the Ravelry group already, come and check it out. I'd love to get to know you. So this is the Antarctis shawl. I'll take it off. Now I'm going to get a cold neck. It was so hot yesterday. It was like summer. And today it's really, really, really cold again. It's really nice in the sun, but that wind is like super cold. So this is the Antarctis shawl by, I think it's Janina Callio or something like that. And I knit it in a gradient from Ren and Ollie on Etsy. Although when I bought it, it was through a yarn store in South Australia, and she wasn't Dinah's Ren and Ollie at the time, I don't think. So unless I am completely unbelievable. But anyway, it's a gradient that I picked up like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was originally going to knit socks with it, and then I started because it's sock yarn. And I started the socks, and I'm like, I'm wasting a gradient. Nobody's going to see the very light pink on my toe. What am I going to do with it? I know, I'll knit a shawl. And I would happily knit another gradient shawl because I love it. I love the variation in colour. I think that's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I wouldn't necessarily knit another Antarctis, but I would definitely knit another gradient shawl because they're fun. And it's awesome because the gradient kind of speaks for itself. It doesn't need to be a difficult pattern. You could probably just do like a relatively easy shawl and end up with this, like simple, almost, garter stitch shawl with, a lace edge or something, and end up with an amazing looking shawl because the gradient kind of speaks for itself. A bit like speckled yarn. Speckled yarn speaks for itself. It doesn't need, I don't think it needs kind of a fussy pattern because the speckle is loud enough on its own. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Anyway, random thoughts from Christy. So today I have a giveaway to announce, or the winner of a giveaway to announce. I have a few new projects to show you and some acquisitions. And a hoe. I have a hoe. So let's start with my hoe, if I can find it. So last time I spoke to you, I said that I wanted to, I don't know if I showed you my finished balloon ride socks from Knit Picks. If I didn't show it to you, it's finished. And I did say that I was going to cast on the clover socks with some Viking yarns that I had picked up. Well, I didn't mind the yarn, and because I kind of, I don't know why I didn't wind the yarn. I just couldn't find the motivation to wind yarn for whatever silly reason. And I was sitting on the couch one night and I just wanted to do something really, really plain and really simple, and everything I'm doing at the moment seems to be difficult. So I remembered my sock blank and I thought, oh, I'll just do that. It needs to be finished. I can't just let that sit there forever doing nothing. So I finished off my sock blank sock. Now, I got really frustrated with this because I was knitting the Arithmophobia socks from Sock Architecture. But it's a short row heel and I have a higher instep or a longer heel or something, that means that a standard short row heel doesn't fit me. I've since figured out that I can put in a heel expansion at the just before I hit the heel, and then do decreases on the underside of the foot, and it fits perfectly. Didn't know that when I started. So I got really frustrated. I ripped it back I don't know how many times, and then I decided to just put in a heel flap. And because I was so when I picked it up the other night, I was kind of umming and ahhing about whether I should just dump the heel flap and do the Vanilla Is the New Black heel, because I really like that heel. And then I went, well, hang on, I've already started the heel flap, I may as well just keep going. So that's what I did. So I used the French heel instructions from sockknitters.com, and yeah, just normal slip stitch. The way I've picked up the stitches, but the decreases on the gusset are a little bit different. So it's usually a slip knit with from the Sock Knitters website. They say to pass one, slip one over. I don't know if you can see the difference, but yeah, so I did that. So I passed one and I slipped one over the whole way up, so that I've got this lovely line. Yeah, I quite like that. I don't have a sock with a slip knit to sort of compare it to. That's the knit two together decrease. But yeah, I quite like, I like the look of that. I think it's quite nice. It's quite nice and neat. But then again, I don't have a slip knit to compare it to, so I don't know. But yeah, it's not like a huge difference between the two, I don't think. So I would happily use that again. Yeah, and so I did that. And I was actually turning the heel when my son Judah, who's 18 months, whacked his head into the wall and came out with the face covered in blood. So this is a great sock to remember that by. But essentially the next, my son Gideon also came home from school with a head injury that day. So that weekend was just spent pretty much doing vanilla knitting, because I was so stressed. It just kind of had this knock-on effect with me not being able to think properly. I think it was the emotional strain of seeing my sons so injured. It kind of set me off. And so I did a lot of sock knitting that weekend, and I really love these socks. This is great. So I still have a fair amount. It's more than half. I still have a fair amount to go. So I'll obviously get another sock out of that, and then some. So I have some yarn left over, which is really exciting. So that's that. I don't know when I will cast on the second sock. We're going into summer. I don't wear wool socks in summer, so I don't know. I'll get there eventually. But I love this. How pretty is that? I love the green. I kind of wish the green was up here, but that's okay. And so I used a contrast yarn, just a plain Regia for the heel and the toe. The yarn was a sock blank that I got from Pickle & Co Fibres, who's an Australian indie dyer based in Brisbane or Queensland somewhere. I check her shop out every now and then, and she hasn't done sock blanks for ages, so I don't know if she has an intention to do any more. I have an intention to buy more sock blanks. I love them. And I knit them on 2.5mm needles over 64 stitches. So that's that. Okay, so I said that I was going to start the clover socks, and I didn't. I finished those instead, and then when I finished those, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Do I do the clover socks? I keep looking at the clover socks. I really like that pattern. It was gifted to me by Moira from Knitting in Stitches, and I want to knit it sooner rather than later. But I don't think it's a pattern that is really suited to a gradient. No, sorry, not a gradient, to a variegated yarn. And I don't have many semi-solid or tonal yarns. Bulk of my sock yarns are variegated. So it's sort of wondering what to do. You know, do I cast on, you know, a second, because I've got about half a dozen single socks. So I was thinking, do I cast on another sock, you know, like to match my single socks, because I've got a few in my cupboard as well. I've got two of them are, one of them is Vorticity by Alice Dew, and there's a Cat Bordy sock as well from the Knitter's Book of Socks by Clara Parks. So I've got those two socks. Oh, and Kai May by Cookie A. That I've got a sock that is halfway done. I've got a full, like one full sock, and then I've got another sock that's halfway done and needs to be finished, and it's been sitting there for a couple of years. I really should finish these socks. So I think that's going to be my plan going forward over Christmas, that this Christmas all I'm going to work on is finishing off single socks. So so that when I get to winter next year, I have a stack of pairs. How exciting would that be? So I have been working steadily on Emily's favourite socks. They're living in my car at the moment, and I forgot to bring them in when I brought the grocery shopping in. So hopefully I'll remember to show them to you next year. They're growing next year. Hopefully they'll be done by next year. Hopefully I'll remember to bring them in next episode. They're growing slowly. They are growing. It's just really, really slow. Because I am knitting them on 2mm needles, 80 something stitches. I did try them on the other day, sitting in church, kicked off my shoes, tried on my sock. They're a little bit tight. I think it'll be all right. But the next time I knit them, because I'll knit them again, I like the simplicity of a simple rib sock now that I'm working on it. Next time I knit them, I'll go up to a 2.25mm, I think. Because, yes. But anyway, I can't show you those because they're in the car. Sorry, I was just drinking black tea and it's going cold, and I don't like cold tea, so I may as well just gulp it down. So what I did do was, it's October. Who's participating in Socktober? I think I'll open up a thread this week in my Ravelry group labeled called Socktober, and if you're knitting socks to Socktober, just pop in and show me. There'll be no prizes. It's just fun. Because, you know, we're almost halfway through. It's what, Tuesday the 12th? Almost halfway through October. Oh my goodness. So my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter Amelia, goes on camp in a couple of weeks, and I'm really, really proud of her, because we said for her 10th birthday that she could get her ears pierced. Her 10th birthday was in February. And because she's been doing swimming lessons every Saturday for the last 4 terms, including this term, I've kept saying we'll do it during the school holidays. And then for the last 2 school holidays, we've got into the holidays and I've either been really, really tired or sick. And we haven't done it. And then this school holidays, I said, we'll do it. And then the first weekend, the first Saturday of the school holidays, we went to visit my cousin down near Wollongong. So it was like almost 2 hours in the car. And so on Sunday, we were just wiped. It was 2 hours there and back. And we were almost completely wiped. And then the following weekend was the long weekend. And I did inquire in a chemist if they did it, and she said yes, but they generally do it on Saturday, and it was a Sunday that I was asking. And then we had talked about getting it done on Saturday just gone. And she came into my bedroom and she said something about getting her ears pierced. And I said, I know you really want them pierced, but I just want you to stop and think for a moment. You're going on school camp in a couple of weeks, and you'll be probably swimming at camp, and you're going to have to remember to spray the antiseptic stuff on your ears before, like in the morning and at night, and also make sure that you're cleaning your ears properly if you've gone swimming, because if you get an infection, you're going to be in a huge amount of pain, and we're not going to be able to help you, and we're not going to be there to remind you. And she sat on my bed and she looked at me. She's so sad. She started to cry, and she went, and I said, look, it's completely up to you. If you think that you can look after your ears and be responsible, then by all means we'll go do it today. but I just want you to really think about what could happen. And she sat there all teary and she goes, I don't want to get them done because I think I'll forget while I'm on camp. And it was heartbreaking, but I was so proud of her for making for making such a responsible decision. So I gave her a hug, told her that I was very proud of her and that she was being incredibly responsible, and then told her that I'd buy her a special pair of earrings for waiting so long. And because I said that, my 12-year-old, who was in bed with her door closed, pipes up, can I get a pair of earrings too? No, you can't. Anyway, it was my 10-year-old started to help me wind this skein yarn, but it was so tangled from the very beginning. I said, just don't worry, I'll do it on my own. And it took me, I think, 3 hours to untangle the entire skein. I don't know. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. So this is 80s t-shirt from Turtle Pearl Yarns. Now, Turtle Pearl is generally known for her self-striping yarn, which I have some. And there's I've seen a lot of podcasters knit with her yarn. So I think the first time I heard about her was from Manic. From the Snappy Stitches podcast, I know Moira from Knitting in Stitches has knit with her yarn. There's quite a lot of podcasters that like the self-striping yarn from Turtle Pearl Yarns. But I think a little known fact is that Turtle Pearl Yarn also has an Artfire store, and she sells other hand-dyed yarn. It looks like she sells self-striping on Etsy, and she sells other yarn in a whole range of weights, from lace all the way up to bulky, I think, or at least worsted, in her Artfire store, which I will link somewhere. Just, look on Ravelry, look in the down bar on YouTube, look at my blog, it'll be somewhere. Or just Google Turtle Pearl Yarns Artfire, because that's what I would do. So I got this yarn. I'd heard about her Artfire store from Snappy Stitches with Chrissy, and she was talking about her store. So of course I went stalking while I was watching the podcast, and I saw this yarn and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's not showing up very well on here, but essentially it's neon pastel, if there is such a thing. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm knitting for October. I came across a pattern that had just been released specifically for October, and I'm not sure if it was on special when I bought it. I don't know if it's on special still, sale, whatever. Called the slip stripe sock. Slip stripe sock. So it just has these slip stitches all the way down. And it's just a really fun sock, and it's really fun to knit. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I love this yarn. I love those colors. Neon pastel colors. It reminds me of fruit chews, or some sort of tutti fruity, fruit chewy, well, I don't know. And when I first started knitting on it, my mouth would water, because I would just have this taste of like a tutti fruity, tropical kind of lolly sweet flavor in the back of my mouth. Please tell me I'm not the only one that gets weird taste in their mouth. Hey, if I am, that's okay. So that's that. That's the Slip Stripe Sock by Christy H. Payne on Ravelry. And it's funny because her Ravelry name is Turtle Girl 76, and this is Turtle Pearl Yarns. And if I'm the only one that finds that funny, I don't care. Maybe this should be titled The Only One, because I've said that a few times. If I'm the only one. So that's that. I'm really enjoying that. I just sort of knit on them. They're just my at home, I'm sitting not doing anything, I'll knit on those now. So slow going, but that's all right. So in my Knitter's Friend bag, this was gifted to me by my friend Emma for my birthday this year. And if you haven't checked out her Etsy shop, please do. It is Knitter's Friend, and she sells some lovely, lovely, lovely bags. I cast on the Snowflake pullover. I think is that what it's called? Snowflake. I've got it sitting right here. So that is, hang on, I'll show you the picture. Tin Can Knits. I'm sure you've seen it, especially if you're a Tin Can Knits follower. So it has that lovely lace yoke, like a snowflake. Apparently we're running out of some sort of ink because it's gone green. So I'm knitting this for my niece. My brother and his wife welcomed a little girl into the world in August, and I started watching. I've been wondering what to knit for her for ages. Like, I wanted to make her something, and I was just going to wait. I didn't send anything to my nephew when he was born, but then again, I wasn't talking to my brother at the time either. But my nephew's never received anything from me, so I was a bit like, well, if I don't send anything to my niece, it's not a big deal. By the way, my brother lives in Vancouver, and I was Skyping with him the other day and asked him where he lived, and then I Googled yarn stores like nearby to his suburb and came up with 2 or 3. So I've told him he's got to go shopping for me. I doubt that'll happen, but when I go to Vancouver and visit him, I know where I'm going. If you need to find me, I'll be in the yarn store. I think Bad Anna's is close by. I think that was one of them, because I know she sells Mud Punch, and I want some Mud Punch yarn. And there was another one. Oh, Wet Coast Wools, I think, was the other one that is sort of within, kind of, not too far a distance. But then they're looking at moving outside of Vancouver, so I'll get to those yarn stores regardless. I should have had a look to see where Sweet Georgia was. Anyway, one day I'll get to Vancouver and I'll go on a yarn crawl. I'll leave my husband with my brother and the kids, and I will say to older people, probably my daughters, because they'd probably enjoy the sightseeing, who wants to go looking at yarn with me? Because they're going to be so thrilled to do that. Anyway, so I've been watching the Mean Girls Knit podcast, and if you haven't watched them, they are hysterical. You got to check it out. And they're holding a Tin Can Knit along in their group, which is You Can't Knit With Us. It still makes me giggle. Anyway, so they were talking about it. They were talking about it on their podcast, and I was like, oh, I can join in with that. I've got a couple of their patterns that I really like, and I'd really like to knit. I had the Snowflake in my library, and I Heart Rainbows as well was another one that was in my library that I've been really keen to knit. And I thought about knitting the I Heart Rainbows for my niece, but because, I could do a 2-color one. Like, if you go have a look at the pattern, you'll know what I mean. I can do the stripes and the heart in one color and the main body in another color. I could do that. But I kind of felt a little bit, I don't know what to do, and it's Fair Isle. I don't know if I have the patience for Fair Isle at the moment. So I had thought about this before I'd started watching the Mean Girls Knit podcast, because I've got this pattern and it only goes up to a size, I think maybe it's a size 4, and my oldest daughter will be is going into size 4. So if I got that, she'd only get 1 season of wear out of it. And if I'm going to knit for her, I'm going to knit a bigger size. So I thought about knitting it for my niece. Decided not to, but in saying that, I could knit it for her for next winter. Or figure out how to do a larger size for my daughter, so it goes up to a size 5. Because it couldn't be that hard. But yeah, so anyway, so the Snowflake has been in my queue for a while to knit it for me, but I thought that I would just knit it for my niece. I've left it in my queue so that I will eventually go back and knit one for me. I've had endless amounts of trouble with the yoke. I only finished the yoke off last night, but it was quite literally knit 2 rows, rip back 3. I just kept making mistake after mistake after mistake. So it was a huge relief when I got to the end. And I really, really like it. I'm up to the bit where you can block it if you want to, and I think I will. I think I'll just take some time over the next day or so to give it a soak and a nice firm blocking before I work on the main body. So I doubt I'll have it finished by the end of the knit along, which is the end of October, but I've made a start, so that's really exciting, and I really like it. I'm knitting it in Filatura di Crossa Zara. I can't tell you what the color is because I don't have the ball band, but that's the ball band. This is the contrast color that I'll be using, so it's like a mauvey purple. And I bought two balls of this pale pink because that's what the yardage was. And I've got this much left of the first ball. I was going to take back the second ball and exchange it for another ball of the purple to save myself some money, but Judah got into the bag and ripped the ball band off and then started mucking around with the ball. So I can't do that. So I'm going to knit a hat with it. I don't know whether I'll knit, I think I'll knit the hat for my daughter. For my daughter Adelaide for next winter, so she'll have a hat for preschool. I can't remember the name of it. I've already picked one. I think it's designed by Danny Sunshine, I think. But that's that. It's been a pain in the rear end, but also really enjoyable. I think I'm really, really, really tired. I mean, like I've got 6 kids and I've got a baby who still wakes up. And we were watching Burn Notice and staying up far too late so we could watch Burn Notice. That is now finished. You'd think that because that's now finished, I would be going to bed earlier. Apparently not. Some nights I do. Some nights I go to bed quite early. Other nights, like last night, I went to bed at midnight. But yeah, so I don't think that I've really been in a good headspace to knit a lace pattern, even though that's not overly complicated. But anyway, not to worry, it's done. I'm happy with it. I'm going to block it. It's going to look fantastic. I haven't counted the stitches. I'm a little bit scared to, but I probably will. And then after that, I think it's just stocking stitch down the rest of down the body. So that'll be nice mindless knitting that I can just hopefully get done. And I reckon if I got cracking on that, I could probably have it done by the end of October. Ideally, I would like to have that done really soon. So I'm knitting the size 1 to 2. And my niece is currently 6 weeks. Ideally, I would love to send it over before winter hits so that they can, or even shortly after Christmas, so that she can still wear it in January, February when it's still quite cold. Ideally is what I would like. But I can get it done in, what am I talking about? It's stocking stitch after that, in the round. That is mindless. So yes, I'm looking forward to working on that and getting that done and getting that off, and then I'll probably just keep knitting them because they are really pretty. Although in saying that, I really want to knit a raindrops, so maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Or just, one of the myriad, one of the other things that I've got yarn for. Like last year, I was going to knit the Hills Cardigan by Maria Magnuson. I've got all the yarn. I started swatching and didn't get any further than that. I really should knit that because that's really lovely. I have been working on my Ivana. It's sitting over there somewhere. I'm not going to get up and get it. Actually, I will. Hang on a minute. Now I have to just remember not to delete one of the videos because I've done that before. Okay, so this is my Ivana. And it's living in my Anna Green Gables bag from Little Skein in the Big Wool. My mother-in-law gave me some money last year for my birthday, so I treated myself with an Anna Green Gables bag. So this is my Ivana. This is by Annie Rowden. I'm knitting it in Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal Tweed in the Midnight colorway, and for the lace, because the yarn doesn't like lace, or at least doesn't like the way I tension my yarn when I'm knitting lace, I'm using a Filatura di Crossa lace. I don't know what the name of the yarn is, and I don't think I've got a ball band, in navy to sort of add some strength to the yarn as I'm knitting, and it's working perfectly. So the last time I spoke to you, I was probably up to where I am now. In fact, I was probably not as far along. Oh yeah, okay. Let's just say I was up to about where I am now. I have been working on this fairly diligently. Now before you say, how can you have been working on this fairly diligently and have made very little progress, I actually ripped it back and started the lace section again because my eyelets were not uniform. I would have one rather small eyelet and then one rather large eyelet. And I knew that there was a way that you could do an eyelet before a pearl stitch, between a pearl stitch and a knit stitch that was the same size as the pearl between a knit stitch and a pearl stitch or a knit stitch and a knit stitch. Do you follow? And so I was unhappy. I'd missed a row in the pattern. And I was just really unhappy with it. And I knew that nobody else would be able to tell about the eyelets except for me. But I knew that it would also bug me. So I just decided to rip it back and pick up all the stitches and start again. And I'm really glad I did. So what I do now is between the pearls, I couldn't find any blogs or podcasts or tutorials or anything that explain this. Until I watched a podcast, a tutorial by Very Pink Knits. Now she was explaining yarn overs in general. And she was saying that between a pearl stitch and a knit stitch, all you have to do is just take your yarn, and just hang it over. So you have a half yarn over kind of thing and go on your merry way. And then she said that when you're doing it between a knit stitch and a knit stitch, you're wrapping the yarn around the needle 1.5 times. And it clicked. It all clicked into place. So when you do a yarn over between a pearl stitch and a knit stitch, you're only using half the amount of fabric, or a third of the amount of fabric that you're using when you do a yarn over between a pearl and a knit stitch. No, sorry, between a knit and a pearl stitch. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I might have to do a tutorial on this because I'm confusing myself. So if you wrap the yarn around in the opposite way so that you have the same 1.5 times around the needle between the pearl and the knit stitch, then you have an eyelet that's the same size. So that's what I've done, and I'm really, really happy with it. And it, I mean, look at that. They're all nice and even. So I'm really, 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 really enjoying it. I haven't worked on it for a few days because I've been trying to finish off the yoke of the snowflake. But that looks great. I'm really, really happy with it. So I shall continue. I shall persevere and get that finished. Australian weather is so weird. Like yesterday it felt like it was summer and today we're back to winter. So I don't even know if I'll get to wear it, but all I want is for it to be finished. What else have I said? Okay, so many of you would know that I have knit. Moving on to the next thing. Many of you would know that I've knit the Girl Monkey by Julie Williams. I have blocked her dress, but I have not, so what I'm looking for. I've knit the dress. I've blocked the dress, but I haven't sewn it up, and I don't know where it is. I thought I brought it over to the table, but apparently not. So this is the little girl monkey. Her name is Maeve. I'm knitting her for my cousin's little girl, or one of my cousin's little girls. Oh, so confused words. So she's got 2 little girls. So this is Maeve, and I finished her dress. I've just got to sew it up, and that is my goal for this week. Somebody keep me accountable. But what I started doing was, because we saw them a couple of weekends ago. After not seeing them for 4 years, we went down Wollongong and saw them. So I was frantically trying to finish off the dress and the cardigan beforehand, and then I just decided that it wasn't worth me trying to not, well, you know, it wasn't worth me sending myself crazy over. So I knit the main body of it, and now I'm just ready to pick up the sleeves. So this is the top down cardigan. I think I got it in the seasonal sweaters pattern. I got it bundled with that. I'm not 100% sure though, but I do own the pattern. And it's, yeah, this took me a couple of hours to knit, and I probably could have done the sleeves that evening, but the day that I cast this on was the last day of school for the term, so I was really tired. The kids were really tired. I didn't want to stress myself out trying to start and finish a project in one day. So I will post this to my cousin and her little girl. So yes, my aim is to hopefully get this finished. And I do have tiny buttons, but I don't know where they've gone, so I might have to go buy some more little tiny buttons. But that is Maeve and her cardigan, which I will finish soon. Now, last but not least, well, before I do the giveaway, I have bought some more yarn. When I went into my local yarn store yesterday to pick up another ball of Zara, I had a quick look at their sock yarn, and I found this combination, and it just had to come home with me, and so it did. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? The pink is more, it's kind of a deeper, almost purpley pink. It's not coming up as nicely on the monitor as I would like, but oh well. But this is, I love this. So this is destined to become a pair of socks. I said to my husband I'm going to design socks with them. I think he's getting really cranky with me only ever knitting socks for myself. So, but I really want to design socks, and I have an idea in my head, so I think I just need to follow through and knit them. So it's Peyton's Peytonelle Merino 4-ply, colour 1025. So I bought that. Oh, I didn't tell you about, I told you the yarn. I didn't tell you, I didn't give you more details about this. So if you're wondering, check out my project page for the Avana, because I've actually changed it a little bit in terms of yarn weight. So I'm knitting this, the Debbie Bliss is listed as a sport weight on Love Knitting, but it's not. It's definitely a fingering weight. So I'm knitting this on a stack more stitches, and I'm knitting this section on 3.75 millimeter zings. I love these. I love these needles. So yeah, because I forget little details like that. But check out my project page, or send me a question on Ravelry and I'll answer it. So yes, so socks. Bright, happy, fun, girly socks. Awesome. Okay, last but not least, I have a giveaway. So I want to say thank you to everyone who participated in the stripy socks knit along. We had a few entrants, but last time when I did the for the Yay for May sock knit along, I did it. I'm trying to remember how I did it. I counted each sock that you knit as an entry. The person that won has still not contacted me, so, and she entered quite a few socks for this knit along. So instead of doing that and tipping the odds in her favor, I just listed all the people that participated and finished a pair of socks, and then did a random number generator from that. So there were 5 entrants, and the person who won was number 4, who is, and I can hear my son, who is Junip, and she entered 2 pairs of lovely socks. And that Junip is Jen from Colorado. So Jen from Colorado, where did that all go? Sorry, my son has just woken up. You have won this awesome magnet. It's the alpaca lips. Run for your life. Because this cracks me up. And I can't get the lid off. And a Fairy Bread Progress Keeper. I will put a little lobster clasp on that, so don't worry, you're not going to get it like this. So yes, so contact me, send me a PM on Ravelry with your address, and I'll pop that in the post as soon as I hear from you. And before I go, I've promised you fairy bread, and I haven't delivered, so I have today. So all those sprinkles, this is fairy bread. Oh, I'm getting sprinkles all over my table. Fairy bread, it's white bread with sprinkles on it, like, you know, the sort of sprinkles you put on a cake, stuck down with margarine. And before you say that's disgusting, I just want to remind you that if you are in Canada, you like to put cheese curd with chips and gravy. If you are in America, I have heard that you like fried butter, although that does sound delicious to me. And if you're in the UK, you eat herring. I think my mother-in-law, who's originally from England, likes to eat sardines. But so did my grandparents, and they weren't from England. So we all have our strange foods that nobody wants to eat. But fairy bread is delicious. Simple as that. So I'm going to go because my son is awake. So I hope that you have an awesome week knitting, and I will talk to you again soon. Happy knitting. Bye.